What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today, we'll be joined by Kane Pitman from Locked On Bucks as Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks stun Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics on the road in Game 1 of their best-of-7 series. Who stepped up for the Bucks with no Khris Middleton? Is Giannis Antetokounmpo playing like the best basketball player in the world right now? But first, a quick message from our friends over at BetOnline. As BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your sports betting stats and info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information from live betting, playoffs, esports, the NBA draft, and more. And speaking of the NBA draft, right now at BetOnline, you can take a look at the odds for who is going to be the number one overall selection in this year's NBA draft. You get Jabari Smith Jr., who is the favorite at minus 105 to go number one overall in this year's NBA draft. And you got Chet Holmgren at plus 195, and bringing up the rear is Paolo Banchero at plus 300. So for that and more, be sure to head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action available to you. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Joining us now is Kane Pitman from Locked On Bucks as the Milwaukee Bucks stun the Boston Celtics on the road and take a 1-0 series lead here in the Eastern Conference semifinals. You can follow Kane on Twitter for all of his Bucks musings at Kane Pitman. Now, Kane, what did you think early of the defense in this game, from the Celtics against the Bucks, specifically on Giannis, kind of forcing a ton of turnovers early, and just how Giannis and company adjusted as the game went along?
Well, it was interesting because I think it was super physical as predicted early in this game. But what we have seen from the Bucks over the last few seasons, including Game 1 this year against Chicago, is that they are incredibly sloppy in Game 1s. Their turnovers have been through the roof. They've hardly won a Game 1. They just scraped over the line against Chicago. But before that, I believe they were 1-6 in Game 1s under Bud. So they really have played poorly. So what was actually going through my mind was, here we go again. The Bucks are going to have 20 turnovers in this game. We'll see how it pans out. But I don't want to take credit away from the Celtics. Clearly, they are a good defensive team. But I think later on in the first quarter, you just saw Giannis, as he typically tends to do, was starting to survey the floor a little bit, slow down, see where he can pick apart the Boston defense. And I thought the run, I think it was a 10-0 run they had late in the first quarter, I thought that really settled them into the game.
And you talk about Giannis, and even in this game, right, he finished, with his second ever, I believe, playoff triple-double, 24 points, 13 boards, 12 assists, had a pair of blocks in there, shot just 9 of 25 from the floor. So not great efficiency, but finding ways to impact the game. You're used to him impacting the game defensively, but the 12 assists really stands out to me in the way that he was getting his teammates involved throughout the course of this game as he was dealing with the Boston Celtics defensive scheme, specifically Al Horford, who I think did a really tremendous job, as good as one can do against Giannis Antetokounmpo, at least, guarding him one-on-one.
Yeah, I thought Giannis really dominated this game, and it's interesting because he was 9 for 25 from the field, and I think this is kind of a poster game for the evolution of Giannis, because if you go back a couple of seasons ago, maybe the series against Toronto, certainly he's had some issues with Boston in the past, Miami, where he's had these types of games where he might be 9 for 21, 9 for 22, and he struggled to find other ways to impact the game. But tonight, even though he missed a bunch of shots around the rim that you kind of were looking at and thinking, geez, Giannis never misses those. He did tonight, but he was still able to get everyone else involved. And I thought completely control the game, completely dominate, and do it with patience and not get too aggressive, not try and take over, which I think is impressive when you consider Khris Middleton wasn't there. Really, the only knock you could have on him was that fourth foul, which was, at the time, not a great move where he sort of charged at Jason Tatum and picked up his fourth. But other than that, I thought he was in total control.
Yeah, after that fourth foul was picked up, you just looked over at Coach Bud, and he was just exasperated, just looking at the camera, kind of a 1,000-yard stare, like, what are you doing, man? And it's, he's a star player, so he can't chastise him too much in the middle of a game one. But past that, you mentioned, obviously this Bucks team without, Khris Middleton and the guy who is, you look to as the de facto, all right, you got to step up. If Khris ain't here, you've got to step up for us. Jrue Holiday with a very strong game, 25 points, 9 boards, 5 assists, 3 steals, really toned it up on the defensive end, but was also really aggressive and kind of looking for his own offensively, I thought, in this one.
Yeah, well, Jrue Holiday is such a physical player, and this is why we did a crossover podcast with John Corrales, our friend over at Locked On Celtics, and we were discussing the physicality and who who we thought that if it was a super, super physical series, who would benefit. I thought it was clearly going to favor the Bucks, because when you think about Giannis and the way that he plays, when you think about Jrue Holiday, he wants it to be as physical as possible on both ends of the floor. On defense, he's going to get all up in you and body you all night long. But on offense as well, he will do that. He likes to post up. He likes to take you into the paint. He can use his size, use his strength, and score in the perimeter. So I thought his couple of threes early in the game were really important, just to keep the Bucks afloat there when they were behind. But the longer the game went on, he was able to get to his spots in the mid-range, in the paint. And I agree with you. I mean, I thought he was spectacular tonight.
You talk about the physicality, especially here, and I'm inclined to agree with you. I do think the physicality edge, I would give 1 point to the Milwaukee Bucks here, but it really felt like their size bothered the Celtics a lot in this game. You trot out a starting lineup of Brook Lopez, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Bobby Portis, and you've got three giants running around out there clogging things up. It really felt like that was maybe a bit of a difference maker as this game went along. Having those guys out there for different stretches really kind of, bottlenecking things at the rim, making life so difficult for the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think on both ends of the floor as well, certainly the Bucks close up the paint, and this is what they've done for years. And you look at the 53-point attempts that Boston had, that's by design. Some people may look at that and say, well, if the Celtics hit a few more open threes, well, the Bucks are happy if Al Horford shooting 9 threes per game. And yes, he can knock them down, and there might be a game in this series where he does. But they're going to live with Marcus Smart jacking up a bunch of threes and Al Horford jacking up a bunch of threes. And Peyton Pritchard, I don't know what he was thinking in the fourth quarter, but Peyton Pritchard jacking up a bunch of threes. So, yes, you look at it, and Celtics fans might say, well, there was some open threes, but it's kind of by design. They got nothing in the paint. When you got Giannis down there, when you got Brook Lopez down there, the size overwhelmed them. So I thought before the series, the Bucks might stick with the big lineup, and I think we saw tonight why it can work for them. Now we'll see how the Celtics adjust.
Yeah, Peyton Pritchard with a little bit of maybe, my 2K hero ball there in the fourth quarter, much to the chagrin of Brad Stevens, who decidedly walked away early from the end of that game up in his suite, wherever he was watching the game from. But let's take a look here, Kane, at the Bucks bench, because I really think Javon Carter, Pat Connaughton, and Grayson Allen deserve a little bit of maybe some spotlight from this game, because it felt like their impact, sporadically throughout the game, some very timely threes, combined to shoot 6 of 12 from distance, all three of them. And it really felt like their impact off the bench in this game was really important to kind of get the Bucks through certain stretches of this one, just when they really needed some timely buckets.
Yeah, Javon Carter plays a pretty important role. And remember, George Hill is out at the moment with an abdominal strain. Now, a lot of Bucks fans have been saying that they would prefer Javon Carter to play anyway. I'm not sure whether he would be playing over George Hill. We know George Hill's been a longtime favorite of Mike Budenholzer. But the thing that Javon Carter does, I think they said it on the broadcast, and maybe some people that don't know Javon Carter too well would be saying, what did he just say? But I think it was Mark Jones that said that he's one of the best in the league at applying full court pressure. But that is literally his trademark. He's been doing that since he got minutes in this team. So I thought it was interesting that the Bucks throughout this game defensively said, all right, Marcus Smart, you want to bring the ball up the floor, you can do it, but you're going to have Javon Carter in your face the whole time. And I think that the fact that he was a playable player in this series is really important, because it allows Jrue Holiday to slide up and defend a Jaylen Brown or a Jason Tatum. And Wes Matthews can take the other big wing, the other J there. And all of a sudden, Giannis is roaming. Brook Lopez is staying in the paint. So I thought the role, to your point, that Javon Carter played in this game was absolutely critical. And then the bonus is that he knocked down a couple of shots as well.
Now, Kane, it wasn't all, sunshine and lollipops here. There were some areas that, the Bucks would probably like to clean up moving into game 2. So what would you like to see them kind of adjust, take care of as we're rolling into game 2 of this series? Kind of maybe the one glaring issue from this game that you'd like to see them address.
Yeah, I mean, the easy one is the turnovers early in the game. I mean, that really could have cost them tonight if you think about the lead they gave up early in the game. And then in the second half, they only scored 45 points. Now, Boston is a really good defensive team, so I don't think that that's necessarily a huge shock. But if you're a Bucks fan, I think that there is a fair bit of room for optimism, because the Celtics did shoot better from three. The Bucks were 35% from three, so it's not like it was a scorching night, particularly in the second half. They weren't hitting those threes. And then the other obvious one is Giannis going 9 for 25. Is he going to do that again? Is he going to make a few of those layups? So, look, I thought it was a pretty good game for the Bucks. There's no doubt about that. Elite defensively. But offensively, I think if you're a Milwaukee fan, you have to feel like there's still room for improvement.
The Milwaukee Bucks take the edge here in game 1 against the Boston Celtics. Home court now in their favor. How does the series play out? Kane's going to have us covered for all of that and more over at Locked On Bucks. Kane, appreciate you stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Anytime.